This episode of KBizzle's Hollywood Unhinged is brought to you by Brand Cloud. Reputation matters. We make it better.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Hollywood Unhinged. And today it truly is unhinged because, as promised, and I've told you in the other episodes, everybody has this conception of what I do all day long. They think I've got naked ladies swimming in my swimming pool. They think I'm the celebrity sex tape / pornographer of LA. They know I'm a Hollywood fixture. That's all they know these days. I've tried to pivot and make myself a little less shameful and a little bit using my talents for good now. And the next guest that we have up today is a guy that I met many years ago. And I know we probably discussed this once before, Dano, but do you remember going to the Four Seasons with me and Paul Baresi? And you, I believe, were the Wiretap guy. I was involved with a sex tape. It was a gay sex tape of a very big Hollywood director who was with a male prostitute. And this blog company was trying to buy it. And I went there, and Baresi, funny enough, was portraying himself as a gay porn company owner, which not that much of a stretch, is it really, Dano?
Not really.
And for those of you who don't know who Paul Baresi is, we'll get into that in a minute, because Paul Baresi is the guy who basically had all the dirt on John Travolta many years ago and pretty much outed John Travolta. Am I right, Dano?
Well, yeah, he outed him and then he unouted him.
Right.
I don't know how that worked out, but yeah, he had sold the story to the National Enquirer, I guess.
Let me formally introduce you to the audience.
Okay.
This is Dano Hanks, and Dano Hanks is known around town as he's the number one guy, man. If you are looking to get dirt on somebody, if you're looking to protect yourself, if you're looking to get backgrounds on shady people that you might hire at your company, this is the guy that you call. I want to know how you got into the business. I know you're a former cop, right?
No, I was never in law enforcement, other than the fact that I worked for both the CIA, FBI, and DEA. Most of those three-letter agencies as a contract operative. The reason those agencies like to use people like me is if you are law enforcement, you have to go by certain rules.
Sure.
If you're not, then you have what's called plausible deniability. You can say, oh, I didn't know that was against the law. I had no idea. Breaking into their apartment and photographing all their stuff was, if they direct you to do something, then you're following you become what they call an agent of the police.
Sure.
But if they just say to you, we're really interested in so-and-so, what can you tell me about them? Then, they're not directing you to do anything, specifically illegal. They want to know what you can find out, but they don't want to know how you found out. I infiltrated organized crime for them, international drug dealers, many, many times. And kind of like it says in Mission Impossible, if you're caught or captured, we'll deny any connection, And they did many times,
Well, I read that article in LA Weekly, which I thought was fascinating last night. And it basically had you and this other guy, Vallis.
Fred Vallis and I were partners for 27 years until he died of a heart attack, some 10, 15 years ago.
Is that right?
And it was ridiculous. It was stupid that he died. He died of what I call deniability. His wife was a surgical nurse, and he denied even having the symptoms for 3 days. Sat in the bar and gone, nah, just a flesh wound, until he finally decided to go to the hospital and pulled up to a stoplight, and by the time it turned green, he was dead.
Oh my God. How horrible. So you guys were partners, and you guys were detectives together, PIs together, right?
For 27 years. And when the police arrived at where he died, and they were, loading him into the ambulance, they thought it was kind of unusual when his jacket because he was wearing a priest outfit, and his jacket fell open, and there was two shoulder holsters underneath his jacket.
You
You
know,
know,
I
what's
don't
wrong
know.
with this picture?
Well, that's a pretty tragic way to end. Obviously, he was dressed as a priest for a reason, huh?
He dressed various disguises that he used when he was doing surveillance or working undercover, and he
Now, I
preferred the
read something.
priest outfit on a regular basis.
I read in part of that article that you were around a lot of cocaine at one time. What was that
I
like?
I was a serious cocaine addict. I s- I smoked freebase. I never bought crack off the street. I bought powder cocaine and cooked it up myself. But yeah,
Was
I
this
was a
while you were a
serious.
PI? You were doing this?
Oh yeah, I was on surveillance. Smoking crack. Yeah, I would be lying if I said I didn't love cocaine, but I haven't done any drugs or alcohol in close to 20 years now.
Good for you, man. Yeah, that era, you're of that age where a lot of my older friends got into the freebasing. They were a lot of my friends were drag racers and they were the NHRA, but they told me
Oh
about stories.
really?
Yeah,
I
they
was
told
into
me.
drag racing. I did a funny car called Mr. T Corvette, race
Is
at
this
the Fuel and
my,
Gas Championships in Bakersfield,
sure.
back in Orange County International Speedway, Long
My
Beach.
my friend Bob Brandt was the crew chief for Prudhomme, and
Yeah.
they all used to work with Shirley Muldowney back in the day.
Oh yeah,
Legend.
Shirley.
They're actually
She
in
was a
the
badass.
NHRA Hall of Fame, but they would tell me stories about driving those tractor trailers across country, smoking the cocaine, and they
Yeah.
loved it. So you got into being a PI. You were pretty damn good at what you did, and you wiretapped a lot of people. I mean, everybody knows from Anthony Pellicano, so I'm sure you came across him in your travels. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Paul Baresi worked for Anthony Pellicano, and Anthony Pellicano couldn't invest his way out of a paper bag. He farmed out everything. He got famous because he worked a case for Elizabeth Taylor that basically he created the crime so he could solve it and get his name. And she started singing his praises around town, and he got a lot of big name clients. But a lot of the stuff that he ended up going to prison for, he could have done legally. He paid two Beverly Hills cops to get get reports that he could have gotten legally online through two databases that are available to licensed private investigators,
Didn't
TLO
he?
and IDI.
Didn't he
Uh,
also he left like a dead fish in somebody's windshield, if I
yeah,
remember correctly?
there was a reporter that was writing a story about him, and he threatened her by leaving this dead fish on her windshield. You know, a typical mafioso type signal. And and when the police were investigating him, they raided his office and found dynamite in his office. He had made some bombs. And, those kind of things will get you into trouble. But,
Absolutely.
uh,
Now he did. I think he did like 17 years. I know he's out now.
yeah, they get, basically where he did the 17 years was at Terminal Island, which I had been to myself. And he got a job as the night operator of the power plant, which is, it's kind of a where you don't mingle with other prisoners. He pretty much stayed to himself. He probably could have gotten out a lot earlier, but he refused to give up his clients, which were several prominent lawyers in Hollywood. So
But
I mean,
they must have paid him pretty good, right, to shut up.
well, you couldn't pay me enough to do 17 years.
Well, how many years did you do at Terminal Island, and what did you go to Terminal Island for? And for those of you
Uh,
at home or all over the world that haven't, Terminal Island is a federal prison that is off the coast of California. It's on San Pedro, which is an island.
San Pedro, Long Beach. It's down by
Right.
the Queen Mary. At one time it had both male and female prisons there. The female prison was on one side of the island, the male prison was on the other side. It was very minimum security. I worked in the electronics shop there and maintained, of all things, the security fence, which never worked. But as long as nobody told anybody it didn't work,
What did you get convicted of?
I was kiting federal checks and I stole a couple cars and drove them across state lines.
I read that you tapped into some phone wires and you forwarded phone numbers to a 976 number.
That was one of our up our sleeve dirty tricks. We would go to a guy's office building on the weekend and call forward his phone lines to 976 porn numbers. So anybody calling into his office after the weekend was over, they'd get they get porn numbers until he figured out how to unforward it.
So you go to Terminal Island for how long now? A couple years?
Well, I did what I refer to me as doing life on the installment plan. If you add up all the time I've done, it adds up to maybe at the most 8 years. But it was like 18 months here, 18 months there.
So despite being in jail, federal prison, as much as you've been there, you're still allowed to get your detective's license. You're still able to do what you
Well,
do.
here's how that happened. Under the law, under California law, uh, you can be anybody as long if you're working under somebody else's license. There's no
Right.
control over the employees of other licensed individuals. Fred Vallis was licensed, and I worked under his license. And I started out by working under the license of a guy named Jack Immendorf. And after 18 years of working under Fred's license, I petitioned the court and I said, look, the law basically says as long as your convictions were not directly related to your employment, that they have to issue a license. And the only conviction that would be is if I had ever been convicted of perjury, and I never had. My things were all thefts, and so
Right.
the court ordered the state to give me my license, and then I got my own license, and shortly after that, as predicted, Fred passed away.
I'm going to give you a bunch of names, okay? And then
Sure,
you're going to tell me a little bit about how you're involved with these people,
sure.
okay? So let me start off with Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch, he started a show years ago. It was one of the first TV shows that he did was called The Current Affair.
Right.
And I I watched it. I was sitting up in San Francisco at the time and I was looking at this show and I thought, man, I got some shit I could probably sell to the show. So I call up, they had their cot line number. I call it up and a woman by the name of Reva Dryan answered the phone. She was a British woman. And I told her I had these videotapes of various rock and roll band members shoving cocaine up their nose and, road trips because I had worked both security and singing background for
Oh, I
various
noticed
bands.
all the gold records on your wall. Are those all because
Yeah,
of you singing or people that you've worked with?
well, both. A lot of people don't know this. In fact, I was telling Mark Edmer this the other day. He was asking about that, and I said, "Well, when you were working with a band, a lot of people think only the band members get a gold record. Everybody, including the bus driver, gets a gold record. Anybody
That's
that
right.
was on the crew during the year that album was released gets a gold record. In my case, though, uh, it was while I was working with Starship, Grace Slick found out that I could sing. So I started doing background vocals on many albums and on the going on the road. And then I worked on the first album for Journey, but I also did security for Neil Schon for many, many years until about 6, 7 years ago.
Neil's a tough one, man.
Well,
He goes after
Neil's
anybody
a
that
guy
comes.
doesn't trust anybody, uh,
Right.
and he had a stalker, and the guy was stalking him online as well as showing up at places. I've worked for Slash recently. He's had like 3 or 4 stalkers over the years.
Oh yeah.
I
He's a
don't know
friend of
what the
mine as
deal
well.
is, but he does. Real sweetheart of a guy.
He's such a
Probably
nice guy, Dano. He's such a nice guy.
he's
That's what
one
the
of the
problem.
nicest guys I've ever worked with.
I helped get rid of a stalker for him many years ago, and befriended him. And I almost had to pinch myself every time he'd call to talk to me or text me, and we would laugh because he was just so humble and so down to earth. I still to this
Did you
day
deal with his girl Greta?
no.
Yeah, she's always who calls me up, and
You mean
he
Megan?
does a background check on anybody if they're going to mow his lawn. He runs a background check.
Neil Sean, I had some familiarity with because many years ago, an ex-wife of his came to me wanting to sell an engagement. Ava Fabian, you remember Ava?
Ava Fabian, Playboy Playmate.
That's
Uh,
correct.
they had
And
done a video, and the video she was playing the part of a bride. They had a video where they appeared to get married, and she tried to claim that they actually got married. And yeah, we had to make that go away. Yeah.
oh, we have more in common than I even thought. And funny enough, the producer of this show, Eric Middleman, used to head up Playboy TV, and I think he was the one who put me in touch with somebody who knew Ava Fabian, and that's how
Yeah,
it all went.
I worked as the in-house security for the mansion for many years. I lived at the mansion up in the upper game room up in the there was 3 bedrooms in the game room, and I had one of those rooms for a long time.
I remember the game room. The game room had those Tempur-Pedic beds in it, and all the pinball machine with Hef's face, and man,
Yeah,
those were the days.
I left when they started the show The Girls Next Door because
Yeah,
it was a big babysitting job, and I guys would say, "Oh, it must have been great living at the mansion," blah blah, and I'd say, "Have you ever gone to a strip club and talked to the bouncer?" After about day
right.
3, it's like, "Oh yeah, tits."
So I don't want to get off the beaten tracks. We started with the name association. So Rupert Murdoch, you got to through Current Affair. The next name I was about to throw out was Heidi Fleiss and Ivan Nagy. I met Yvonne Nagy many years ago, and he had told me that he was married to Heidi Fleiss, and I didn't believe this little guy. I was like, I don't know who the fuck. He was at an adult convention, and when he turned out to check out, I couldn't believe it. My only dealings with Heidi Fleiss, and you're going to laugh at this, I was brokering ads on the Bunny Ranch website. At the top of the website, there'd be sexsearch.com and a couple other adult companies, which I would get Dennis a ton of money for monthly. When we found out that Heidi was going to go on the Howard Stern show with Dennis Hoff, the company came to me and basically said, hey, we want to pay Heidi and Dennis this amount of money. It was like $25,000. Long story short, I had to send her a W 2 for the money. And wouldn't you know, the next year I got audited? I had never been audited in my life. And I don't think I took a solid shit for at least 3 months, Dano, before I went to go get in front of this auditor. And I sat there, I was dressed, I was respectful, and I said to him, I go, sir, I have a feeling I know why I'm here. I have a feeling it has to be relating to Heidi Fleiss or Dennis Hoff. I can't figure out any other reason other than the fact that they must be on your hit list. And of course, he can't tell me anything as an officer of the IRS, but he looked at me and he gave me a wink. And when I explained to him that the money went in my account, out of my account, it was not earned income. Yeah, I got up and I left. It was fine. But I dealt with Heidi once after that, and I said, this woman is out of her goddamn mind. Now, you worked with her back when she was literally supplying the whole city with hookers, with Charlie
Well,
Sheen.
the thing with Heidi is Heidi just liked to brag about who she was getting laid. If she had kept her mouth shut, nobody would have bothered her. But what happened is I got approached by Yvonne Nagy, uh, and his girlfriend, Julie Conister, they contacted me and they said, "Oh, how much to tap Heidi's phones?" She had four phone lines going in there. And the only reason they wanted to it is they wanted to find out who her client list was so they could steal her clients. Yvonne had broken up with Heidi. Heidi had a thing about older guys. All of her boyfriends were older guys.
Yeah, well, she dated
Uh,
Dennis and
yeah,
Tom
yeah.
Sizemore.
I mean, she had this thing, but so I threw in a wiretap, all four lines, and I would just the wiretap was actually picked up about half a mile from her house.
So,
You know,
how do you wiretap? You go up onto the phone lines, or I mean,
well,
how do you?
I went up, climbed the pole next to her house, put a tone on the lines, in the middle of the morning when she was sleeping, because she'd sleep until noon. She'd overwork at night, and I toned it out so I could see which four lines it was, like half a mile away. Ran lines down there into four different recorders, and they were voice activated recorders, so they weren't recording all the time. They were only recording when the phone was off hook. And I'd come by and pick up the tapes and deliver them to Yvonne Naj. Well, one day I decided to throw a couple of the tapes in my tape deck in the car, and I'm listening and I'm hearing all these major celebrity names. So I kept about, maybe 13, 14 hours worth of recordings. And those were my insurance policy if I ever got jammed up.
Sure.
And, and what happened was Heidi found out about that. I don't know. It was probably Von Naj bragging that he had recordings on her. He may have played a recording back to her. And she sent her enforcer, a guy named that everybody called Cookie.
Cookie.
And Cookie's, I knew his real name. I'd already run a background check on him. And when I explained that I knew exactly who he was, he didn't threaten me anymore. But
I'm sure. Well,
but
you're
Heidi
also
calls
fond
me
of
up and
you're
she
also
said,
fond
if
of
you
pets.
don't if you don't give me my tapes back, I'm gonna slit your throat and shit down your neck.
Wow,
That's exactly what she said.
how poetic.
I ended up going to court when they were convicting her for tax evasion, federal case, and I was asked to talk about that conversation, and I told the judge, I can't quote her in open court like that, and he ordered me to do so, and I repeated that statement, and it ended up in the Hollywood Reporter.
All right, I'm going to give you another name. O.J. Simpson.
OJ is the gift that keeps on giving.
How
I
so?
I worked on looking into him from the day of the murders. I worked looking into every aspect of his life, and both the criminal trial and the civil trial, and had him under surveillance constantly. And when he was on trial, everybody, every news outlet around, especially Rupert Murdoch's outfits, wanted to know who all the jurors were. And one of the jurors got kicked off. It was a FedEx driver who got kicked off the jury because he had, you know, lied about something on his checklist when they were, checking off the jurors. And so I called him up and I said, my buddy and I, we really feel bad about, you know, how you were treated by the judge, and we'd like to take you and your wife out to dinner at the House of Blues. So we took him to the House of Blues and we got him drunk. And over the course of 5 hours, we got all 12 juror names out of
What?
him just by getting him drunk. We'd say, "Hey,
Holy
what
shit!
what was the name of that juror that was this?" And we got all 12 names, and I had all 12 names ready, And I told the bidders for the names. I said, look, here's the deal. I'll give you the names, the list of names, but you can't have the list until the jury retires, because I don't want you interfering with jurors. And I sold 3 copies of the list, all to Murdoch companies, for a total of $75,000.
Wow.
And it was for a bar bill of less than 1,000.
Boy, it's too bad you were in that era, because if you would have known Harvey Levin 12 to 15 years ago, you would have made a fortune.
Well, I worked with Harvey Levin back when he was with CBS News,
Right,
when
local
he was at
report.
Channel 2.
Sure.
But when he left and started TMZ, I didn't go with him. I had a lot of friends that did. And yeah, he's locked in because he knows, who to stay connected with in courthouses and police
Oh,
stations, and
absolutely.
he's
Absolutely.
very well connected everywhere.
I was one of his biggest tipsters. Well, Mike Walters was over there. He was the assignment news desk guy. But he had a sister at the courthouse. And Liz would stay down there, and they literally pulled everything the minute it got filed.
Yeah.
And people couldn't, radar, National Enquirer, nobody could figure out how TMZ was getting things so fast back then. But they had an army. You know, that tip line on the
Oh
top
yeah.
of that website?
Everybody at the courthouse was on the payroll.
Everybody, and they paid a lot of money back then. Now they don't pay any money, and now they don't do stories that could get them sued by celebrities. Ever since the Hulk Hogan thing started, with, if you remember,
Oh
Gawker
yeah.
lost their whole website. It was a $140 million lawsuit. Peter Thiel was the guy who backed Hulk Hogan and paid for his representation, as a matter of fact. So, different day and age.
Promote your business with our advanced AI-based brand lifting service. Imagine your brand showing up as the natural choice exactly where every search begins, in search suggestions. With our brand lifting service, your brand, product, or service name appears directly in search suggestions, and a single click leads clients straight to your website. It works anywhere in the world, support any language, and it works on several platforms. Brand lifting makes your brand easier to find. It makes your brand stronger and trusted. Take control of your reputation now. Ask for your free audit. Reputation matters. We make it better.
So, you worked with Journey on the first album. So that means you were working with Ainsley Dunbar, Greg Raleigh,
Oh,
Neil
Ainsley
Schultz.
Dunbar, another pedophile. I hate to say it, but
Oh, was he really?
oh, the reason he got kicked out of Starship, he was the drummer for Starship, and then Donnie Baldwin replaced him, was that they'd go on the road and he'd be picking up young girls, and the Grace said, we can't have this. It's going to get the band barred from playing. In fact, it did get the band barred from playing in certain states
No
because
kidding.
there were warrants out for Ainsley's arrest for picking up teenage girls. So yeah,
Who else did you work with? You
the
worked with the Starship? You said that you worked with them?
I worked with Starship for 8 years. Uh, and Donnie Baldwin was my roommate at the time. He was up working in a small band up in Alaska. They were playing at the Red Dog Saloon uh, uh, in the capital up there. And what happened is when Ainsley got kicked out, Mickey Thomas said, "Well, we can get Donnie Baldwin to replace him." And he only had like a week to learn all the songs before they went on tour. But he had been his drummer when Donnie Baldwin was with Elvin Bishop's band.
You obviously worked with
Well,
Mickey Thomas. Mickey Thomas is pretty cool, huh?
yeah, Mickey and I had a band on the side called Little Gadget and the Soulful Twilights. It was a little R&B band, and we played clubs up in the Bay Area.
So what would be an example of a case that you've worked on that many people know about but would never have known that you were kind of engineering it in the background?
Well, besides the Gambino crime family case, which was reported, what I did is I've organized them into a book, that I have out. It's out, published on electronic books or whatever it is. It's sold over in the UK, but we're in the middle of re-editing it and releasing it in a hard copy in the US, and it'll be called The Hollywood Private Eye.
Do
But
producers and directors come to you for your consultation on?
George Gallo uses me all the time.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I've been his technical advisor for close to 30 years. Right from, well, more than 30 years, God, from Midnight Run to he created Bad Boys,
George,
which,
he also did a movie called Middlemen, which was based upon the credit card processing guys in the adult industry. I
yes,
knew.
it was, and that's a great story, Middlemen.
Oh yeah.
The problem with those films though is they didn't get the promotion that they should have got to make them big. Now George and I just got a green light for a story that's about me, but it's now been fictionalized and updated. It. I was the very first male prisoner in a co-ed prison, and I was the only male prisoner for close to 3 months.
Did you get
Me and
conjugal
six,
visits? Do you have conjugal
or
visits or those inner jail visits?
well, they had for their husbands and boyfriends who would visit, but I was in the prison with the 600 women by myself, and I wrote a thing called Prisoner in Paradise, and it just got a green light.
It's a
And
great story. That's a great story.
it is a great story.
What did you
Uh,
learn about women being in a prison with 600 of them?
now you're the piece of meat, and
Wow.
uh, and I got to get an insight on really how women think, and it's been very valuable. Uh, I ended up getting along with all of those women very well, and I had this one lady friend who became my girlfriend in the prison, and you could pay guards to look the other way while they came into your cell. So look for the film Prisoner in Paradise. It'll be coming out.
So let's go back to Paul Baresi. So Paul Baresi and I told you I met you because if you remember correctly, originally we had a meeting place off of Beverly, and it was a coffee shop, and it was too loud. You were outside the venue, and Paul kept telling me, we got to get these guys to talk loud. I said, why don't we just change venues if it's going to be that much of a problem? And we did, and we went to the Four Seasons. We sat inside the bar, and I think you were on one side of the bar or outside the window. And
I was outside shooting video through
right,
the window, and I think Paul was wearing a wire.
Paul was wearing the wire, but he was posing as a gay porn company owner who wanted to buy this tape. And he kept saying, huh? Huh? Talk a little louder. And I was like literally kicking him under the table, like, dude, this is the hackiest shit I've ever seen in my life, right? So when he told me afterwards that he was in gay porn, and I said, what does that mean? He goes, I'm not gay though. I said, what do you mean you're in gay porn, but you're not
He
gay?
produced gay porn films.
Right. But I mean, to be around it and not be in the culture is a little difficult, I have to tell you. You have to, along the way, be maybe bi or, I don't know. You're the one that was in jail for a long time with a bunch of men. You tell me.
Yeah, I always say it. I used to be bisexual, but I couldn't afford to buy it anymore.
So, so Baresi was the guy, as you were saying. I believe the story goes, was in a gym in Santa Monica, and Travolta was in the same gym. They were getting dressed, naked or whatever, and I guess Travolta had made a move on him. Is that the story?
Well, here it wasn't quite that. They were shooting. Travolta was shooting a movie with Jamie Lee Curtis called Perfect,
Perfect, right?
and Paul Baresi was a technical advisor on the film. Because he worked out. Paul Baresi works out at the gym 3 hours a day to this day,
No
and
kidding.
he's in his 70s. He's got the body of a 35, 40-year-old man.
Wow. Yeah,
And
he was in good shape when I met him.
he's in incredible shape, and he's really a pussy cat. He's a sweetheart of a guy, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, what happened is they were in the shower together, and apparently Travolta hit on him. At least that's what what Paul tells me, and I personally don't give a shit what your sexuality is. It's like, to me, it's boring. We live in Hollywood, and different strokes for different folks. I mean,
Truth be told,
uh,
I'm not afraid of the gay thing. I'm more afraid of the Scientologists in this town. When you're dealing
yeah,
with Malta
yeah,
and Cruz, then you're dealing with a whole other animal that people don't realize. The Scientology people are relentless. You get on their radar.
they have people all over the planet, and they will make your life miserable. So I have friends that have escaped from that. Leah Remini's a friend of mine, and
Yeah.
her family owns a restaurant, Vivian's,
Vivian's. Yeah, it's right by
and
you, huh?
I eat at Vivian's on a regular basis.
I used to go there all the time. Her sister works there as well.
Yeah, Shannon, she's a sweetheart.
If she's watching this, I want her to call me because I've always had a thing for Leah Remini. I think she's hot. I'd like to
I'm
be the
wearing
king of food.
I'm wearing my hat stolen from Buckingham Palace. I
Oh,
don't
that's
know.
the, but that's the case we can't talk about, right?
Yeah, that's the case.
Wink, wink.
Well, we can't go into details. That's but that's what I was in London for.
The long and short of it is, you went there though to testify on behalf of Daily Mail or not on
No, on
behalf.
behalf of Prince Harry.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
okay.
yeah, I've been working for Prince Harry for 6 or 7 years now.
Now that's funny as well. Many years ago, I was shopped, allegedly, what I believe and was told was a Meghan Markle sex tape. And the closer I got to peeling back all the layers of the onion, the more I realized it was definitely her. She had a lawyer by the name of Richard Gino, and when I contacted him to tell him what I had, he immediately said, "We know what you're talking about. It's not her. It's a lookalike." And he basically had the whole script ready, but nothing about that checked out. And the woman who was trying to sell it to me, who was out of Toronto, told me that a photographer who used to date her filmed it 8 years earlier. She wasn't supposed to hold on to it. The guy wanted to send it to her to impress her, to show how big his cock was, right? And she just held on to it. He said, "You have to promise me that you will delete this video after I send it to you." And she said, "I promise," but she never did. So all these years later, when I called that lawyer immediately called that photographer in Florida because they knew she'd never shot anything like that for anybody. Like, when they asked about it, she's like, "There's only one guy ever did anything like that, and he said he destroyed all the tapes." So I've never told that story publicly to anybody. She seems lovely. I don't know her. Have you met her personally?
No, I have not. I had tons of files on her because the mail had asked me to run everybody in her family and actually take pictures of every house she ever lived in.
And the father's quite a
And
character.
the father wanted to sell. He was selling a lot of information to the tabloids. Her own father.
That's right.
Uh, but the bottom line was they were using a lot of the information that I had to do what they call in London, they call it blagging, we call it pretexting, you know, making phone calls to pretend that you are that person,
Sure.
and getting their phone bills and their credit card records, and getting a lot of information that they shouldn't have been able to get. And
Yeah.
that's what they're going after them for: invasion of privacy.
Looks like Harry's uncle got a big monumental day today, huh?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
Uncle
that
Andy.
story
They're
was
not going to be seeing Uncle Andy at Thanksgiving this year, will they?
that story was very big in the news while I was over there. He was apparently selling insider information on stocks to Epstein, and that's a no-no. and his brother basically said, "Let the chips fall where they may." You know,
Right.
if the courts want to send him to prison, he's fine with that. And the people are pretty much asking the king to step down and let the other son, Harry's brother, uh, go to
William.
be king. So
I don't think I don't think King Charles is going to be around that long. How do you like that? I mean,
I don't think so either.
his cancer's advanced from what I was
Yeah,
what I read.
I think the royal there's going to be a major change in the royal family.
I have a
Yeah.
contact who used to work at the Daily Mail, who I believe is now at the Mirror. His name is Ryan Perry. Perhaps you know him. If
Then
you
I know
don't,
the name. I don't know him personally.
you
No.
don't. I'll tell you what he's famous for. He infiltrated the palace. And when I say infiltrated, he was the guy who would serve the queen her cereal every morning and walk the corgis. And he was a plant for the Daily Mail. And he was there for quite some time and reporting what was going on. And it was a huge, huge, huge scandal when it broke. But I don't think anybody's ever gotten that close to the family ever again.
There's a great story with the queen when she was off in her other residence, which is away from Buckingham Palace. Some American tourists were walking around and they stumbled across into her estate, and she ran across them, and they started talking, and the American couple said, "We understand the queen lives somewhere around here." And she said, "I heard that too." And they wanted to take a selfie with her, so they did. And the queen later on went, "I'd love to be a fly on the wall when they show their friends the selfie."
Isn't that amazing? What a great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, she
Well,
was an ambulance driver during World War II. So she was really somebody who was not, she wasn't like very aloof like a lot of royals are. She was just, right there with the people. So good.
speaking of ambulances, you stopped by here the other day, but you weren't in your. You own an ambulance, or did you get rid
Yeah,
of
I
it?
do.
You
Oh, at
still
my
have.
age, it's probably cheaper. Yeah, I own an ambulance and a couple of police cars. I rent them to the studios
Oh,
to
that's
use in
smart.
movies. Yeah.
I didn't know that's what you. I didn't know that that was what the usage was for.
Oh yeah, because they haven't changed the body styles of ambulances in what 25 years. So on
Wow.
the outside, you can't tell one that's like a year old from. And right now, they're currently shooting a show called The Pit over
Yeah.
Warner Brothers. Yeah, and that's I'm getting it booked on that show, and it goes for $750 a day, and they never nobody ever keeps it for one day. They rent
Right.
it and it's on set for like 2 weeks, and it's 750, 750, 750. It's a nice paycheck.
Good for you.
Yeah. So,
Smart. So let me ask you one last question. I understand you like guns. You're a gun enthusiast. Did you wear a
well,
gun the entire time you were a PI, or do you not wear a
no,
gun?
I very rarely wore a gun, but my mother was the East Coast skeet shooting champion when she was a teenager, and she taught me how to shoot. And both Fred and I were crack shots.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm very. You don't want to come up against me in a gunfight. You're not.
I,
It's not going to do well for you.
I don't want you fucking listening in on my phone calls. That's what I'm more scared of. I like that. I mean, listen, people say to me all the time, "Oh, so you're a celebrity fixer, huh? You like Ray Donovan?" I said, "I'm Jewish. I'm not like Ray Donovan." I said, "I'm not beating anybody up and I don't kill anybody, but I might be able to read your email." And
Yeah.
people look at me and they go, "Okay, I'm frightened. That's frightening."
Well, the thing of it is we do need the Ray Donovans in this city because a lot of things that and celebrities get themselves into trouble all the time, but it doesn't need to be made public. You
What
know,
would you say? What would you say the number one thing that affects celebrity? Would you say it's drugs or infidelity in this town?
infidelity.
For sure, right?
I don't think anybody gives a shit about drugs. Uh,
And then
you know, but
pedophilia is up there as
and
well.
pedophilia. Oh yeah, if they find out your career is over if they find out you're a pedophile. You
Absolutely,
know,
or a
but
rapist.
I don't run across too many pedophiles in the business. It was very prominent, you know, maybe 30 years ago. A lot of these teenage actors. There's a group of us. There's a thing called a minor consideration, and it's run by former child stars, and they exchange notes on the various producers and directors that molested them when they were working on their TV shows as children.
It's
And
insane.
but it's not so common today because there are more safeguards than they were, and it's because of you and I. People like us can out them in a minute.
Will you tell all the viewers how they can get a hold of you or anything you would like to plug?
Well, you know, I'm pretty much wide open on my Facebook page, which is Dano.Hanks. I'm the
Oh, by
only
the way,
Dano Hanks.
Dano found me money that was owed to me the other day.
Oh
And if
yeah,
you're out there and you are curious if you have any money that the state might be withholding or the government or any entity, get in touch with Dano. He'll be able to get you your money. Listen, on that note, I'm going to have to wrap it up, but I know for sure we're going to have you
we'll
back.
do this again. I
Yeah,
don't
for
mind.
sure.
You know, I felt comfortable with you. We'll do it again.
Nothing going on, but you feeling me. No, 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 no. No, 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 no.